Now, the PM and Chancellor are honing their five-point plan for tomorrow's autumn statement. But the pandemic is coming back to haunt Rishi Sunak.
During yesterday's COVID inquiry, extracts from the government's former chief scientific advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance's diary, claimed that Dominic Cummings said Rishi Sunak, quote, thought the government should let people die of the virus. Well, joining us now is Giles Kenningham, a former special advisor to David Cameron.
No, Lord Cameron of Chipping...
Sorry, Chipping Norton. Lord Cameron of Chipping Norton. We'll speak about your former boss later on, but let's just focus for a moment on the COVID inquiry. Not great news for Rishi.
No, none of the politicians seem to be coming very well out of this. I do have some sympathy for them in the sense that they were dealing with an unprecedented situation. I don't think you can point to any country in the Western world who got it right. But I think I have a wider concern about the inquiry. It's going on for too long. They're saying this may not report back till 2027, or it may not finish till 2027. We could have another pandemic in the meantime. I think what you are seeing at the inquiry is a lot of grandstanding by the barristers, not actually getting to the point. Like, we need to learn the lessons and then move on.
I think, Giles, that's right, and I've said it all morning, and I make no bones about what I thought about Partygate, and I've listened to all the people say that Boris Johnson was out of his depth. However, I think there's a lot of people that need to take responsibility, and all I see is tittle-tattle, he said, she said, whatever. If we achieve anything from the millions of pounds this is going to cost and the years it's going to take, it is surely to say to the victims' families, this is never going to happen again. I want fact, and I want to lose this stupidity. And Vallance, and I'm sure Whitty will do it today, I think they're all in it, mate, all of them.
Yeah, and look, Sweden's already reported back. Its inquiry is done and dusted, so why is it taking us long? And let's bear in mind, the politicians still need to have their say. I think Johnson's going to be up for the inquiry before the end of the year, as will Matt Hancock as well, which no doubt will be big box office moments. But yes, there's too much sort of emphasis on looking at, oh, he said, he swore like this, he said that. That's really
And they've all got diaries, and Dominic Cummings and Neil Ferguson, the scientist that went to Cardiff to see his girlfriend. Dominic Cummings drove to Barnard Castle. I think the British public want fact. I know it annoys you, Nick, but it's not just the Johnson thing. It's childish. It's like condescending.
Yeah,
I don't
less
know.
about score settling, and actually to your point, let's get the lessons learned and move on.
But this is something that ultimately we do need to go through in great detail. I don't know. For me, I get your point on settling scores, etc. But ultimately, we as the media are going to pick up on those little tidbits because they're far more entertaining than talking about changing policy, for example. Moving on to your old boss, David Cameron.
Lord Cameron of Chipping Norton.
How do you think he will be feeling about his new position? Do you think this is anything that he imagined would happen?
Probably not. I think he always did want to return to public life, but accepted it would be very difficult in the wake of Brexit, which was incredibly polarising, incredibly divisive. Normally, UK Prime Ministers, certainly in recent times, don't come back. They don't come back to the political front line. So, you know, obviously I'm biased. I think it would be a great move. I think the question is, how much difference can he make to the Tories' sort of poll rating in a year? And I suppose the other question is, will we see a situation where people look at him and think he looks more prime ministerial than Rishi Sunak? Now, he won't be trying to do that. That's not his style. He's a team player. He's been there and done that. But you've seen the reports out of the 1922 committee last night. It seemed like a lot of MPs were really happy to see him there, and he gave quite a stellar performance.
It's really interesting for me. I absolutely acknowledge that Sunak's... I mean, you said it's a good move for Sunak. My issue is this. It's almost like the Tory party have said, right, forget Brexit, forget the Red Wall.
Back to the future.
Let's back to the future, one nation Tories, let's go central. For example, these aforementioned, promised tax cuts tomorrow that Sunak keeps coming on about. I want to know how much sway Cameron's got round that cabinet table. I want to know if he's got Sunak's ear. I want to know, actually, whether suddenly he's the man that Sunak's turning to, because I'm going to put to you what I put to the Labour person yesterday who refused to answer it. If you had 25 billion quid, if David Cameron, your ex-boss, had that 25 billion, with everything that's going on in this country, Giles, would you be advising him to put pounds in people's pocket? Would you say, let's concentrate on business because that drips down into the economy, but that's not soon enough to get us re-elected? What would you be telling David Cameron to do with that money?
I mean, I'm no economist, but I think tax cuts all the way. And I suspect we'll see that tomorrow, and that will be probably the government's last big staging post to make a difference and try and turn the dial, because people may well see the effects of any of those tax cuts. Obviously, you've got the budget in March, by which time it's probably too late, because a lot of those measures won't come into force until right up just before a general election.
Shall I tell you why I don't think the Tories will be re-elected?
Yeah.
Because the Tory government the Tory party won a mandate in 2019, like it or not, based on Brexit. And we now have at the head of our government, as I said to you the other day, 3 staunch Remainers.
No.
David Cameron, Jeremy Hunt and Rishi Sunak.
Well,
Sunak
voted Brexit.
He voted leave.
He didn't get a mandate from the British people. That's what I think their problem is. And you make a really interesting point. Can tax cuts tomorrow create a bounce? If they don't, done.
Yeah, he hasn't got long. Obviously, he didn't really have a big bounce after his conference speech. So, this is the power of incumbency, but probably one more big event after
You've got me
this.
thinking now, Cameron could come back. Lord Cameron could be the leader of the Tories after the next election.
I'm not sure anyone will want to be the leader of the Tories after the next election. If they lose, I suspect there'll be a big period of introspection, except Suella Braverman, or maybe Kemi Badenoch.
But for him, important. For him, out of the blue, but he's done it.
Really important. And this is, hopefully...
Spoken to him?
I've exchanged messages, but not spoken to him.
Do you think this is about rewriting his legacy to a certain degree? Because he must have had to make this decision at a very, very short notice, less than a week, I would presume. Do you think that he probably still feels a sense of regret over what happened with regards to Brexit?
He definitely felt like there was unfinished business. The irony was that he was at the height of his powers when he had to resign. No one teaches you how to become Prime Minister. I think Blair said this, the longer you went on in the job, the better you got, but the less popular you were.
Can you tell him from me, I never understood it. Here's what I would say. Apparently there was a clamour to have a vote. If you're the Prime Minister and you've got a majority, you go, you've asked me, I'll give you the vote. I'm not going to stand on either side of the fence. I'll implement what you lot decide. He'd still be Prime Minister, wouldn't he?
Probably,
Yeah. Giles, thank you so much indeed. Really, really appreciate it.